Chapter 6. Family. Parents. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which Yahovah your Elohim is giving you. Whoever robs his father or his mother and says, "This is no sin," he is in the same class as lawless robber and a destroyer. Children, obey your parents as his representatives, for this is just and right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you, and you may live long on the earth. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to Yahovah. Moreover, anyone who does not provide for his own people, especially for his family, has disowned the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. But you say, if anyone says to his father or mother, "I have promised to give to Yahovah what I might have used to help you," then he is rid of his duty to honor his father or mother. Thus, by your tradition, you make null and void the word of Yahovah. A person who curses his father or mother must be put to death. Having cursed his father or his mother, his blood is on him. You shall fear every man his mother and his father. Hear, my son, the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the teaching of thy mother, for they shall be a chaplet of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. Listen to your father, who gave you life, and don't despise your mother when she gets old. Whoever attacks, strikes, his father or mother must be put to death. For Yahovah commanded, saying, "Honor your father and your mother," and "He who curses father or mother, let him be put to death." Family Covenant. Yahovah blessed them. Yahovah said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, and every living creature that crawls on the earth. And you, be ye fruitful, and multiply. Swarm in the earth, and multiply therein. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Responsibility of a man in front of an unengaged or an engaged lady. If a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged to be married and sleeps with her, he must pay the bride price for her to be his wife. But if her father refuses to give her to him, he must still pay the money for her dowry. If a man finds a betrothed young woman in the field, and the man forces her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die. But you shall do nothing to the young woman. There is in the young woman no sin deserving of death. For just as when a man rises against his neighbor and kills him, even so is this matter. For he found her in the field, and the betrothed young woman cried out, but there was no one to save her. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, that is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. He will never be allowed to divorce her. Bringing up children. In these words which I am commanding you this day, shall be first in your own minds and hearts. You shall whet and sharpen them so as to make them penetrate, and teach and impress them diligently upon the minds and hearts of your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall teach them words of YHWH to your children, speaking of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you rise up. For I have chosen him, Abraham, so that he may teach and command his children and the sons of his house after him to keep the way of YHWH and to do what is just and righteous, so that YHWH may bring Abraham what he has promised him. My children, listen to me. Listen to your father's instruction. Pay attention and grow wise, for I am giving you good guidance. Don't turn away from my teaching, for I, too, was once my father's son, tenderly loved by my mother as an only child. My father told me, take my words to heart, follow my instructions, and keep my commands, and live. He who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly, early. Discipline, chasten your children while there is hope. If you don't, you will ruin their lives. Don't fail to correct your children, youngsters. They won't die if you spank them. Physical discipline may well save them from death. A youngster's heart is filled with foolishness, but discipline will drive it away. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. The rod and rebuke give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. Discipline, chasten your son, and he will give you rest. Yes, he will be your delight. O Elohim, you have taught me from my earliest childhood, and I have constantly told others about the wonderful things you do. And parents, do not provoke your children to wrath, but train them up in the discipline and instruction, Torah, approved by our Master. For YHWH disciplines those he loves, and he punishes those he accepts as his children. As you endure this divine discipline, remember that YHWH is treating you as his own children. Who ever heard of a child who was never disciplined? If YHWH doesn't discipline you as he does all his children, it means that you are illegitimate and are not really his children after all. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and who, when they have chastened him, will not heed them, then his father and his mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of his city, to the gate of his city. And they shall say to the elders of his city, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of his city shall stone him to death with stones. So you shall put away the evil from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Someday your child will ask you, what is the meaning of the instructions, laws, and rulings which YHWH, our Elohim, has laid down for you? Then you will tell your child, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and YHWH brought us out of Egypt with a strong hand. YHWH worked great and terrible signs and wonders against Egypt, Pharaoh, and all his household, before our very eyes. He brought us out from there in order to bring us to the land he had sworn to our ancestors that he would give us. YHWH ordered us to observe all these laws, to fear YHWH our Elohim, always for our own good, so that he might keep us alive as we are today. For we are righteous when we obey all the commands Yahovah our Elohim has given us. And you shall observe this thing as an ordinance for you and your sons forever. It will come to pass when you come to the land which Yahovah will give you, just as he promised, that you shall keep this service, Passover feast, Pesach. And it shall be, when your children say to you, What do you mean by this service? That you shall say, It is the Passover sacrifice of Yahovah, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he struck the Egyptians and delivered our households. Divorce Bill. If a man takes a wife and marries her, if then she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found some indecency in her, about her that is shameful, and he writes her a letter of divorce bill, puts it in her hand, and sends her out of his house. And when she departs out of his house, she goes and marries another man. And if the latter husband dislikes her, and writes her a letter of divorce, and puts it in her hand, and sends her out of his house, or if the latter husband dies, who took her as his wife, then her former husband, who sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife after she is defiled, for that is an abomination before Yahovah. Yosef, her fiancé, being a just man and upright man, and not willing to expose her publicly and to shame and disgrace her, decided to repudiate and divorce her quietly. And I tell you, whoever dismisses and repudiates and divorces his wife, except on the grounds of unfaithfulness, sexual immorality, causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorcee on a wife that he has already divorced once, commits adultery. Cheating, lies, and false accusations. If any man takes a wife and goes into her, and then scorns her and charges her with shameful things and gives her an evil reputation, and says, I took this woman, but when I came to her, I did not find in her the tokens of a virgin, then the father of the young woman and her mother shall get and bring out the tokens of her virginity to the elders of the city at the gate. And her father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, but he hates and spurns her. And behold, he has made shameful charges against her, saying, I found not in your daughter the evidences of her virginity. And yet these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city. And the elders of that city shall take the man and rebuke and whip him. And they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought an evil name upon a virgin of Israel. And she shall be his wife. She will remain his wife, and he is forbidden from divorcing her as long as he lives. But if it is true that the evidences of virginity were not found in the young woman, then they shall bring her to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death, because she has wrought criminal folly in Israel by playing the harlot in her father's house. So you shall put away the evil from among you. Marrying a pagan woman. Nor shall you make marriages with them, the Hittites, Hitti, and the Girgashites, Girgashi, and the Amorites, Amori, and the Canaanites, Kenani, and the Perizzites, Perizi, and the Hivites, Hivi, and the Jebusites, Yephuzi, 7 nations greater and mightier than you. You shall not give your daughter to their son, nor take their daughter for your son, for they will turn away your sons from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of Yahovah be kindled against you, and he will destroy you quickly. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Do not make mismated alliances with them or come under a different yoke with them. inconsistent with your faith. For what partnership have right living and right standing with YHWH with iniquity and lawlessness? Or how can light have fellowship with darkness? What harmony can there be between the Messiah and Belial? Or what has a believer in common with an unbeliever? When you go forth to battle against your enemies, and YHWH your Elohim has given them into your hands, and you carry them away captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman and desire her, that you may have her as your wife, then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails, in purification from heathenism, and change all her clothes, and shall remain in your house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. After that you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. And if you have no delight in her, prior to coming into her, then you must let her go free. Restoring brothers' seed. If brothers live together, and one of them dies and has no son, his widow is not to marry someone unrelated to him. Her husband's brother shall go into her and take her as his wife, and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. And the firstborn son shall succeed to the name of the dead brother, that his name may not be blotted out of Israel. And if the man does not want to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate to the elders and say, My husband's brother refuses to continue his brother's name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. Then the elders of his city shall call him and speak to him, try to reason with him and confront him. And if he stands firm and says, I do not want to take her, then shall his brother's wife come to him in the presence of the elders and pull his shoe off his foot and spit in his face, and shall answer, So shall it be done to that man who does not build up his brother's house. And his family shall be called in Israel, the house of him whose shoe was loosed. Inheritance. If a man dies and has no son, then you shall cause his inheritance to pass to his daughter. If he has no daughter, then you shall give his inheritance to his brothers. If he has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to his father's brothers. And if his father has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to the relative closest him in his family, and he shall possess it. If a man has 2 wives, the one beloved and the other unloved, and both the beloved and unloved wives have borne him children, and if the firstborn son is the child of the unloved wife, then, when it comes time for him to pass his inheritance on to his sons, he may not give the inheritance due the firstborn to the son of the beloved wife in place of the son of the unloved one, who is in fact the firstborn. But he must acknowledge as firstborn the son of the unloved wife by giving him a double portion of everything he owns, for he is the firstfruits of his manhood, he is the beginning of his strength, and the right of the firstborn is his. Man's authority. If a young woman makes a vow to YHWH or a pledge under oath, binds herself by some agreement, while she is still living at her father's home, and her father hears of the vow or pledge, but says nothing, holds his peace, then all her vows and pledges will stand. But if her father refuses to let her fulfill the vow or pledge on the day he hears of it, then all her vows and pledges will become invalid. YHWH will release her because her father would not let her fulfill them. If she marries after she makes a vow or has made some rash promise or pledge, and her husband hears of it but says nothing to her, then she has to make good on whatever she vowed or pledged. If her husband learns of her vow or pledge and raises no objections on the day he hears of it, her vows and pledges will stand. But if her husband refuses to accept her vow or impulsive pledge on the day he hears of it, he nullifies her commitments, and YHWH will release her. And if a woman vowed in her husband's house, or bound her soul by a bond with an oath, and her husband heard it and does nothing to stop her or prohibit her, holds his peace, then all her vows and every pledge with which she bound herself shall stand. But if her husband refuses to accept it on the day he hears of it, her vow or pledge will be nullified, and YHWH will release her. Let the wives remain silent when the congregation meets. They are certainly not permitted to speak out, but should take a secondary place. Let them remain submissive and subordinate, as also the Torah says. If, however, a woman is widowed or is divorced, she must fulfill all her vows and pledges no matter what. So her husband may either confirm or nullify any vows or pledges she makes to deny herself. He establishes them because he said nothing, doesn't speak up day after day, to restrain her on the day he heard of them. But if he shall nullify them after he hears of them, then he shall be responsible for and bear her iniquity. But I want you to understand that the head of every man is the Messiah, and the head of a wife is her husband, and the head of the Messiah is YHWH. But a woman dishonors her husband if she prays or prophesies without a covering on her head, in a way that shows a lack of respect for the authority of her husband. Jealousy or suspicion. If any man's wife goes astray and commits an offense of guilt against him, and the man lies with her carnally, and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and it is kept secret though she is defiled, and there is no witness against her, nor was she taken in the act, and if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he is jealous and suspicious of his wife who has defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he is jealous and suspicious of his wife, though she has not defiled herself, then shall the man bring his wife to the priest, and he shall bring the offering required of her, 1/10 of an ephah of barley meal. But he shall pour no oil upon it, nor put frankincense on it, symbols of favor and joy. For it is a cereal offering of jealousy and suspicion, a memorial offering bringing iniquity to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before YHWH. And the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle, and put it in the water. And the priest shall set the woman before YHWH, and let the hair of the woman's head hang loose, and put the meal offering of remembrance in her hands, which is the jealousy and suspicion offering. And the priest shall have in his hand the water of bitterness that brings the curse. Then the priest shall make her take an oath, and say to the woman, If no man has lain with you, and if you have not gone astray to uncleanness with another instead of your husband, then be free from any effect of this water of bitterness which brings the curse. But if you have gone astray and you are defiled, some man having lain with you beside your husband, then the priest shall make the woman take the oath of the curse, and say to the woman, YHWH make you a curse and an oath among your people, when YHWH makes your thigh fall away and your body swell. May this water that brings the curse go into your bowels, and make your body swell and your thigh fall away. And the woman shall say, So let it be, so let it be. The priest shall then write these curses in a book, and shall wash them off into the water of bitterness. And he shall cause the woman to drink the water of bitterness that brings the curse, and the water that brings the curse shall enter into her bitterly. Then the priest shall take the cereal offering of jealousy and suspicion out of the woman's hand, and shall wave the offering before YHWH, and offer it upon the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the cereal offering as the memorial portion of it, and burn it on the altar, and afterward shall cause the woman to drink the water. And when he has made her drink the water, then if she is defiled and has committed a trespass against her husband, the cursed water which she drank shall be bitterness, and cause her body to swell and her thigh to fall away. And the woman shall be a curse among her people. But if the woman is not defiled and is clean, then she shall be free from the curse and be able to have children. This is the law of jealousy and suspicion when a wife goes aside to another instead of her husband and is defiled, or when the spirit of jealousy and suspicion comes upon a man and he is jealous and suspicious of his wife. Then shall he set the woman before YHWH, and the priest shall execute on her all this law. The husband shall be free from iniquity and guilt, and that woman shall bear her iniquity. For there is nothing hidden which will not be revealed, nor has anything been kept secret, but that it should come to light. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For he who eats and drinks in an unworthy manner eats and drinks judgment to himself, not discerning the Messiah's body. Blessing the children of Israel. This is the way you shall bless the children of Israel.
May YHWH bless you, and watch, guard, and keep you. May YHWH make his face to shine upon, and enlighten you, and be gracious, kind, merciful, and giving favor to you. May YHWH lift up his face toward you, carry his wholeness of being toward you, and give you peace. He will set in peace all you need to be whole and complete.
And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them.